Hello. Hi, I'm Alexander David S. Peter. I'm a visual artist. I work for a bicycle nonprofit called Rich City Rides. And I am trying to make a series of videos chronicling my experience of being diagnosed in February of 2018 with type 2 diabetes. And this is primarily for my Facebook page where I chronicle this journey, and it's called Diabetes Bike Brigade of the Ecumene. That's an interesting word. Has a couple of different definitions. I'll get into that at some point. So I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One is I want to inspire other people to basically reinvigorate themselves in the fight to manage their blood sugars. And I want to explain in further detail to my friends basically why I do what it is that I do. So, without further ado, I think the best way to start this discussion is to read a quote by John Ruskin that was first told to me by my college professor in college, Philip Morseberger. And Philip really loved sharing this with young artists. And when I first heard it, when I was a young artist, one long time ago. Um, and I thought it was the bee's knees, and it sort of is an insight into my mentality and dealing with this experience. So I think I'll start with this and move ahead. So here's a quote: "We work in the dark. We do what we can. We give what we have. Our doubt is our passion, and our passion is our task." And I've been making figurative traditional art in a mature context for about 20 years. It's a hard slog. And I came to this diagnosis with a very quick realization that this was a full court press situation, that I really had to put everything on the table, and I really had to make this a focal point of my life. And I did. My body reciprocated in ways that I never thought were possible, and I can get into that. But I bring this up because um, if you are new to the experience of diabetes, or you are trying to search for answers in how to control your blood sugars better, um, I would say don't listen to a figurative artist on YouTube. I am not a dietitian or a doctor or even a clinician or a psychologist or an endocrinologist or any of those things. So you have serious questions that require serious answers and from serious people. Not that I'm not a serious person. And so that you can make really important decisions for yourself based on your own personal experience with information that you can really, really build a house on. And so, that being said, um, the sort of the overview of my story is that I right now, as we speak in May 2022, I'm in the best health that I've been in since mid 1990s. I am off all diabetes medication. I'm very active where I wasn't before my diagnosis. And I have populated my life with just so many new experiences that were just so joyful and memorable, and with friends who are just really beautiful in doing what they do and their character and their joy. And I found bicycle riding, which is something that I assumed as a mature artist that that there wasn't going to be something in my life that I loved just as much as I love making these things. That wasn't a human being, and man, I was wrong. And I'm going to talk about bike riding and my love of riding and my bicycles. And I want to say this journey was not like I had a trust fund to do it. Far from it. And that when I first started, I was uninsured. I did have a bicycle. It was a Dayhan folding bike that had 20-inch wheels on it. And I started with what I had, and I just ran that thing into the ground because I started biking 75 to 100 miles a week on it. So today I bike. I try when people let me. I try and bike 200 miles a week, if not more. And I'll obviously get into that. But um, the point for tonight is that um, diabetes can be a progressive disease. There's no soft pedaling that. It comes with potential consequences to your health that are really severe. And through being a visual artist, and just the struggles of that made me realize in an intuitive way that bad things happen not just to other people, but can happen just as easily to myself, and that I needed to really hunker down and do something. And I knew that the input may be one thing, the output may be something totally different and quite negative, but that at least I extended myself. I gave it my all, and my body just really reciprocated to that. And so, but it was like with my art, not without a tremendous amount of sacrifice. And to the point now where I don't see it as a sacrifice. So my diet is, well, let me just sort of give you an overview of it. It's like I gave up eating other people's food 4 years ago. So everything that goes into me, I make myself, and I'm off of like just all processed foods. It's sort of splitting hairs. What do you consider processed? But I eat a lot of veggies and meat protein and nuts, and and I do eat eggs, but I've foregone uh, breadstuffs, anything with flour in it, rice, cheese, milk, and snacking. You will only find me snacking if I'm on a century ride, so that means I'm doing 100 to 100 plus miles on a bike ride, or I'm really low, and I need to, and then I do. So so my blood tests, a lot of people have a thing of being very private about their numbers and stuff, but I'll tell you that they're low. To some people, they would consider shockingly low. So there's something called an A1C blood test, and it essentially gives you a snapshot of your blood sugars over a 2 to 3 month period, and it's a percentage. And that's a really short, quick explanation. But so higher numbers put you in full-on diabetes, which I generally was, and then below that, lower numbers put you in the realm of pre-diabetic, and then lower numbers than that put you in a non-diabetic range. And so I've consistently had numbers under 5%, which put me into that sort of middle frame of the non-diabetic, and towards the sort of the bottom end of that spectrum. And then below that, you have hypoglycemic. And so that's something I've been in a healthy way able to maintain. And it has given me, to put it in a point of context, I think this is not an exaggeration, but that I have blood sugar test results that are comparable to, a healthy 20-year-old when I'm 52 and I've been diagnosed with diabetes. Does that mean that I'm not diabetic anymore? No. And short answer, I think that a full answer is required on that, though. That means another video. But I have a lot of data and stuff to indicate that, and life experiences too. And we'll get into that. But so there's a couple of things. So one is that it can very easily be a progressive disease where bad things happen. And I'm not saying that it can be, and this can be your experience, but it can also be a life-affirming, really healthy shift where you, a wake-up call, where you put the input in, and it's not a guarantee, but that it's possible your body can respond in a really positive way. And that's not to say that you can cure yourself from diabetes, or remission is a complicated term and stuff, but it doesn't have to be a downhill slide. For me, it was basically my life turned 180, and I'm just around some really great people, had really great experiences, found something that I really love to do, and that's the key thing, is that sustainability and finding something that you're really passionate about. And for me, that is bicycles. And so, and just talking all day to people about bicycles and helping people with their bikes and giving people bikes, those are things that make me really, really happy. And so, so I didn't sort of plan this video out and stuff, but those are the big points. The other thing that I want to stress, and that is something that I do think has value, and take this on, and think about this, is there's a lot to be gained in testing, in learning your body, and that feedback loop of understanding what your body is doing. And we are so fortunate that we live in a day and age where it is easier to do that. I wear a flash CGM on my arm that looks like this. Okay. But I was also at the beginning of this journey using the old finger strips and lancets and pricking my fingers. And before that, there were some other systems that were used to monitor blood sugars and stuff, and we can get into that too. But and so what I started to do was to really write instantly. I mean, from like the first day, I think, or 2 or 3 days after my diagnosis, somewhere in there, I was already writing everything down. I was writing what I ate, what my numbers were, and what I was doing. And then I started to basically try and pick up and see patterns. And miraculously, I did. I was testing 4 times a day with a lancet, and then it went down to 2 times a day, and now I have a CGM on my arm which checks me every 5 minutes. And I did see some patterns, and so I think that's the thing I want to share with you tonight, is basically my system for testing and checking. So what I did is I made a book, and this book is called The Book of Blood, and it has a lot of numbers in it. And so what I did here is I would try and find data that I could trust that was comparable to other data. And so I would check myself in the morning at the same time. I would try and eat at the same time. I would check myself at the same time. I would record it. And so I'll just open up a page here and give you a sense of what this looked like. So there's a lot of abbreviations on here, which are sort of idiosyncratic, and I sort of can read it. But so on this Monday, I woke up at 8 o'clock, and I didn't check my blood sugars until 8:41, and then I had a count of 90, and then the basically the differential that I had between the nightcap that I had and then the next morning, what was that differential, which was 2 megaliters for deciliters, whether I had breakfast or not, how much carbs essentially I had in my meals, at lunch and dinner, and then if I had a nightcap, what it consisted of, and then also basically what I did in terms of exercise that day. And then I just, added all this stuff. And then I tried to shoot for a weekly average, and also maintain basically an average with my bike riding, or to increase it. And so I saw some patterns that were really interesting. And in surprising that I did, because I was only checking myself 2 times a day, which is pretty much what, personally for me, what my fingers can handle, knowing that I worked with my hands. And so I basically made charts. So this is a chart where these data points are week intervals. So this is basically a chart of like a year and a half that looks like this, and it looks like this. Still going and going. Okay. So, and I saw some patterns, and what I learned was that my insulin resistance ebbed and flowed over multiple week cycles, and I think that the fact that I actually tested at a specific time was really helpful. Where if I was off significantly, it would give a very confusing story. And I've sort of had these secular patterns, which are normal in everyone, sort of justified in this glucose monitor that I have on my arm, which, as I said, records numbers from the stitial fluid in around my cells. That's a whole different issue too. But that it does it every 5 minutes. When I scan, it gives me a graph of what the last 8 hours of 5-minute results are, and that gives a graph that's pretty similar in a lot of ways to the paper thing. So and it was really helpful in the journey because it steered me in some directions. I sort of had this notion that, one, I wanted to become a health food nut. Two, I didn't know how to do that. There was nobody around me to really tell me how to do that. And so there's a lot of trial and error and an evolution to basically what my current diet is. And so we'll sort of go into nuts and bolts of all those things later on. But as an artist, as a person, as a diabetic, know thyself. And this is the avenue I took to get there. And so, and then also, I had been inactive in terms of exercise for about 15 years. And I was active. I was a runner in my youth, and then stopped doing it. And then got into running again and bike riding. And then I really realized that I just really have this great passion for riding. And so today some really cool things. I had the great privilege of co-leading a bike ride that had 800 people in it. I work for a really incredibly awesome nonprofit where we get to give bikes away to people and we get to help people fix their bikes. And I get to lead rides every Sunday morning, unless it's raining. It's just been, and I get to be around some really, really cool people. And so, and I still have real ambition for things that I want to do with the bike and my blood sugar management, believe it or not. And so one is that I want to ride across the country and I want to call attention to people who are fighting diabetes at the county healthcare facility level across the country, because that is still my personal experience. And I want to do it making my own food and making healthy food. And the another thing sort of wrapped up in that is that in many ways, initially for me, the whole thing felt a little bit restrictive in terms of what I couldn't do and what I could do. And I realized that once you had a plan for figuring out how to take care of your blood sugars, what else in the world could you not do? And so that's where this cross country sort of idea came from, and just to talk to people and inspire people that they can do it. I can do 100-mile bike ride now without Cliff Bars, without energy bars, and it's just I just to spend a whole day on a bicycle by myself or with other people. Man, that's fun. That's a good day. So um, so I think there's definitely a whole lot to talk about still, but I think that this is a good place to stop off and wait for the next video. And that is where I will sort of dive into my origin story, if you will, in terms of where my head was at, what was going on when I was first diagnosed with diabetes, what were the sort of the symptoms, the situations surrounding that, and how did I start this process to be where I am today. So this isn't everything I wanted to throw into this first video, but I think this is a good start. And so thank you so much for being with me this far. And just the very last thing I want to say is that if you, that the thing I found helpful in this process was not to go down the rabbit hole of self-recriminations or just being upset with like the genes that your parents gave you or all that. It's just life going forward has to be about hope for the future, due diligence, perseverance, and a mixture of having your feet firmly on the ground in the present. And so it's really important that you don't beat yourself up, that you think forward thinking, and that you move forward so you can take better care of yourself and you can take better care of other people. I found that that sort of negative monster crawls up, and it's just not helpful for you moving forward. That's at least my sort of take on the experience. And so um, so um, if you're seeing this, do not click on the next video. Get out there and get on your bike, or go out and walk, exercise, do something fun. So thank you so much. God bless, and shalom.